Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 1. We did, I want to say, 6 or 7 episodes of practice, but now officially...
Here it is. Finally, we're good to go. That was our preseason. And then now it is we're in the regular season. 100%.
We are in the official launching of the Two Brothers podcast, and we have some topics for today. It's going to be a good one. Let's give a little bit of a synopsis in what this channel is, what the podcast is. It's going to be the first time a lot of people see this. So basically, I'll start, you fill in. What we're going to be doing is every week, every Monday, approximately the time this one gets uploaded, you're going to see either a live stream or an uploaded podcast, very similar to the one you'll be watching today. We'll talk about the news of the week, mostly gaming, but we're not retaining just the gaming. And it's going to be the two brothers kind of going through the typical topics. Do you think that's a decent rundown?
I think that's a pretty good synopsis of what we do around here. Very similar to the stuff we cover in our main channels. And this is just kind of distilled another version of that.
Some longer form, non-edited, two boys with a microphone style podcast. So
yeah, that's great.
The old classic one. And we have, what is your favorite topic? Let's start with the favorite topic. Instead of going through them in order, what's your favorite of all the topics?
So I wanted to start with a couple things. Maybe not, they don't deserve their own topic, but just a couple. So previously on an undisclosed episode, we talked about cigars. I just wanted to get into cigars. To give you guys an idea, I don't drink, I don't smoke. Don't do any of that. But for some reason, I just wanted to try cigars. I never tried it, like a good one, not like a cigarello or like the crappy ones. So I ordered these like mild, like beginner, like I found a YouTube video that broke them down. It was like the best like beginner cigars, nothing too crazy. Order them.
You bought the blue Yeti mic of cigars.
Yeah, the blue. Yeah, exactly. So I got that. And then you were saying on this undisclosed episode, that I was going to hate it. And then we were going to hate it, whatever.
I actually did. I won't lie. I did think you were going to hate it. And I actually thought I was going to hate it. Because there was a very brief time when I was dating a girl that smoked cigarettes that I smoked some cigarettes as well. And I basically didn't enjoy most of the cigarettes. It was more out of habit than anything. So I thought I'd probably not like it. But to steal your thunder...
Oh, go for it. Take it away.
It wasn't that bad. We tried it before the podcast.
Right before the podcast, we did it. And then we didn't do much because like I just ate... ate, and then that is an issue apparently where you don't want to get the spins or you want to have like a full stomach.
Well, and I just don't enjoy like nicotine. I just don't like it. We both don't drink, and I don't like nicotine. I do enjoy the smoke of the green variety, but that's about kind of where it stops for me. So yeah, I wasn't really looking forward to it either. But you know what? It's set in a little bit. It's actually
I like it. The thing about it, though, that I don't see myself ever really doing it too much. If I was in like Vegas or something like that, where you can indoor smoke and that's like totally normal, then I can see myself doing it way more. But I would look at videos like how people smoke indoors and the amount of setup it requires for these people to figure out a way to like smoke inside
you need like
without
a smoke buddy where you blow the smoke back through. So you're not.
They have like all these ventilation systems that are like a couple G's, and then they have in their man cave they have it all set ready to go. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Maybe I will, maybe in the future, but it's like that is a lot of effort just for the ability to smoke inside.
Really enjoy cigars to do that. I think it's pretty much we have the perfect set where every week we'll show up, have 1 or 2 puffs and call it a day. I mean, it's pretty much that.
And I don't get that far into the cigar.
Oh, no, we barely got. I mean, we got
And then also, if we're in Alaska, like it's cold as hell. Like the people that go out there and you can tell cigarettes are addicting because people are willing to go outside. People are willing to go outside in the winter. It's negative, whatever.
You see people bundled up, like
smoking. Like that. If that's not proof of that, I don't know what is. But like, there's no way in hell I'm going to be doing that for a cigar. Like, the whole point of it is to relax and enjoy it over time. So it makes sense.
It's an experience thing. Not consumable.
Just big chilling at home, relaxing. So I understand why people do these advanced setups because it's actually really nice. Like I like the kind of relaxing feeling you get with the cigar, and it's kind of cool there. But I just don't see myself liking it enough to like ever go out of my way to set this kind of stuff up. So a fun experience. I know at least I have an idea of what they are. Maybe I'll do it in the future, but it was kind of...
Give me a 1 to 10. What was your 1 to 10?
I would say about a 7 or an 8 experience-wise. Because like I rated based on like my expectation and then did it meet or exceed? I would say it exceeded it a little bit.
What was your expectation number-wise? Was it like a 5?
I would say like a 5 or 6. I thought it was going to be one of those things like trying your first porter or first stout. Because like we don't drink now, but we used to.
Acquired taste.
Yeah, like you had to acquire it, like drinking coffee for the first time. I thought it was going to be something like that. But really, it was like enjoyable right off the rip. So I liked it.
I think the expectations set a lot of almost anything. Because I had like a 2. Right?
Oh,
I was like,
okay.
this is going to be miserable. And then I was like, oh, it's actually like not that bad. And it was like a 5 or 6. You know, like I bumped it up.
Yeah, really. That's always good, where you get the better experience than what you're expecting. So next, I want to shout out the coolest restaurant business I've ever. It's like burgers and wings and things. 5th Avenue Mall in Anchorage. Okay. He's gonna be retiring soon.
For the one person.
This is the end of the era. Okay, so imagine this. Yep. I barely go there. I don't even work in the mall, whatever. Okay. In that one, and I haven't been there since pre-COVID. And I'll go in consistently. I'm talking like maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. I'd pop in, get a burger with tack or something like that. This guy, not only pre-COVID, he remembered my order. He remembered I don't like cheese, all of that. And he remembered my drink. He remembered all 3.
Okay, so I have a story. I have one experience very similar to that. We used to go to this place called Sweet Pink Pepper, which is actually just down the road from here, I think. I think it's fairly close. It's off Burgaw here, I think. And doxed. And so this the food is it's like the American Chinese. Okay, but the people who own it are like authentic. Okay, but they do the American style like Chinese. And the food is amazing, first of all. But the guy has a perfect memory. I lost a hat. It was just like a Napa hat when I was a little kid. I'm talking like 11 or something. It was like the Napa Auto Parts yellow hat. I had left it there. We went back like 8 months later or something and to get food again. And the first thing the guy does when we walk out of things, he reaches under the counter and just puts my hat there. I'm like, dude, like I forgot about that. You know what I mean?
And this guy's he knew your hat better than you did. Yeah, that's crazy.
I still remember that because the whole family was like, "Are you kidding me? Like you remember this?" Like we immediately were impressed.
Yeah, it's so cool. And so and plus, I think the important thing out of all of that is that the food's good. Like I don't care.
Food was good.
Yeah, and so the food's good. He has these like the garlic, like what is it, garlic salt or whatever on the fries too. And so fireplace, but end of an era. I think he's retiring.
So, but whenever you find those good places, you gotta. I mean,
they're like
you gotta
support them. Yeah,
like a gym.
100%. So that was the story. I was saving it for the pod, so that was genuine reaction there. Didn't want to spoil that. So I thought that was actually like legitimately cool, and that those things
it's impressive
exist.
To me. He remembered that you don't like cheese after 3 years.
Yeah. He was like, no cheese, and I was like, holy shit, I haven't been here in like almost 3 years. So
because you absolutely hate cheese.
Well, okay, so I don't like it when it's not incorporated. Like, for example, and not spicy. So it's like, that is, I know it's weird, but like, for example, on pizza.
I'm just trying to figure out what you mean by not incorporated. Like, cheese is a thing that gets incorporated.
Mixed in, so when cheese, like, for example, a big layer of cheese on pizza, like, I'll peel most of the cheese off.
Okay.
Like, for example, if you have too much like the thick cheese on top of something, where you get like a full bite of cheese. So
you don't like cheese as like one of the main ingredients.
Yes, okay. I like cheese if it's like you have it and then cheese is in there and you mix it all together.
So you don't like grilled cheese, for instance.
Yeah, like that would be an example of something I don't like. But I do like cheese if it's spicy, like pepper jack or queso. Give me an example of like your favorite type of cheese on your favorite type of meal. Where okay, like a Philly cheesesteak with pepper jack ideally on there, and then I can load it with other stuff too. So when I
can't judge. I get my Philly cheesesteaks weird. I don't know when I get Philly cheesesteak, I get just meat and cheese, and I don't want onions. I don't want peppers. Like the stuff that makes it a cheesesteak, I don't want in there. I just want meat and cheese, and it's basically a hot dog.
No, I mean, I think I bet there's people from Philly are just like fucking
100%.
Having a Winter Soldier moment over here, but I'm not gonna judge that. But like what I do is because we have a Charlie's. I don't know if this is like a bigger chain, but we have Charlie's in the mall that I work, and then I go down there and then they have like a Charlie's Philly cheesesteak. It's just literally just Charlie's cheesesteak.
Yeah.
So
okay, all right, yeah.
And it was cool is like the people that owned another place is kind of like they had that Member Burger Express upstairs. Yeah, they own that.
Is that gone?
Yeah, that's gone. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So that's actually been gone for like almost 10 years. And because they moved it downtown.
Since I worked at that Best Buy, basically.
Yeah. Basically, like about a year or two after they closed that, moved down to downtown, and then now they own the Charlie's.
Oh, that's right. Because the girl who took the orders I worked with when I was selling cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Sylvia. She worked. She worked at the. She might still even work there. I don't know. She was a salesperson and then worked in service or whatever. I remember I was like, "You're the girl who took my order every day when I worked at Best Buy." So and
it's crazy how in Alaska it's like we're really stretched
There's like 15
out.
people up here.
Yeah, and that's it. And we just keep running into the same people constantly. So they're like, it wasn't even that impressive. There's like 20 of you. Of course, I'm going to remember your hat.
Okay, so completely abrupt change of topic, but I'm dying to talk about it. Can we talk about the Mandalorian episode yet?
Yes.
Do you think it's been long enough that we're not spoiling? Look, spoiler right now. We're about to go to spoilers.
In the thing below, if you don't give a shit about Mandalorian, just skip to the next part. That's all you got to do.
We'll just go right to the next topic. But we're about to talk about Mandalorian because the new episode is here, and my hair got caught in this microphone and got pulled out and ripped, and so I'm gonna bill you for my next hair care appointment.
Okay. How much do you charge for strands of hair on your OnlyFans?
That's a good suggestion, actually.
Yeah,
I haven't monetized
a lock of DM hair.
That could be my bathwater.
Yeah, you can turn that DM hair into a macro transaction.
Leave your offer below.
yeah.
Okay, so Mandalorian. I want to make the case it's the best. Oh, okay, look, I know. Just gonna say it. I know
this
that.
Is hot.
Wait. Let me. No. Let me do the thing. Okay. I know that it is taking some pretty decent heat from people that are fans of the Mandalorian. Okay. I have two hot takes. I think it's the best opener the Mandalorian's ever done.
Okay.
I'm just going to say that. And then, I've one cold take, two hot takes.
Okay.
Number two, the people are right. It's a little bit of a weird, disjointed episode, okay? However, number three is that Star Wars fans want to bitch.
Yeah, okay.
I think they want to bitch. I'm just going to say, I am a huge Star Wars fan. The name's literally Darth Microtransaction. Yeah. We both are huge Star Wars fans. Went to Disneyland, made the lightsaber, all this shit, okay? But Star Wars fans want to complain.
I think it's maybe not Star Wars fans. I think maybe Star Wars YouTube is profitable by bitching. Because ever since Last Jedi, I swear, I wonder if, I wish I could see the metrics of the YouTube channels. But I think Last Jedi, very polarizing on what happened there. But I bet all of their views went to the fucking moon during the Last Jedi fights.
It's when there's somebody that you love to hate, that people love to hate, it's going to go good. And so the reason I say this is because we're coming off the back of the best bit of Star Wars, in my opinion, has ever been created outside of the Empire Strikes Back. Which is Andor. Obviously. If you don't like Andor, I'm sorry, don't respect your opinion. It's that simple when it comes to Star Wars. Okay?
I completely agree. We can gatekeep it. You can be objectively wrong.
I will gatekeep over Andor. It is good, objectively good. So I think Andor is actually just phenomenal. So we get one episode where obviously it's not the best Mandalorian episode, and now people are coming out with titles on YouTube like Star Wars, why Star Wars is dying, and all this. I'm like, bro, we're into the setup episode. No one's willing to talk about how good the intro was of Mandalorian, give them any props for that. It's all right into, the disjointed pacing, and it's like, yes, you're right, it is disjointed. It is not the best intro episode.
I think it's self-inflicted because this is bizarre. Oh, here's my complaints about it. We already got the whole thing where he needs to. They had weird. There's two things. Well, first of all, I don't think it was in the power of the creatives to move away from Baby Yoda. I feel like how it's been told with it coming through with Book of Boba Fett, because that's unprecedented. That's never happened in the history of any show that I can think of. That a major plot point was resolved. That was end of the major season 2 thing.
Outside of the show.
Resolved outside of the show on an episode standalone, and then comes back. But then, not only that, they don't really bring it up. I need to check the last time on Mandalorian and kind of fill people in. But also, we already know that he needs to go to Mandalore to figure out his weird cult stuff. So why is he flying back in to save him? In the beginning, to reiterate that, if they're not even going to break down that Baby Yoda's back. So you have a bigger plot moment that was resolved outside of the show. Then he has to re-say the thing that, that was a little weird for me.
I agree. Oh, okay, so I'm not going to argue any of the Book of Boba Fett points. I agree with probably the majority of the community. I love the Tusken Raider side of it. Some of the other stuff could have been a little better, but I'm not going to rag on the show. I still enjoyed the show for what it was, okay? Actually, by the way, this is an off point. But Visions, I started watching Visions again, and Visions is some of the best Star Wars. There's just really good shit in it.
Speaking of opener, that opener was one of the best openers. That first one with the anime, and then it's the Jedi Hunter,
the duel. I think it's called. Yeah. You know that
fantastic.
really good. And the one with the old man too, in the Padawan, that was a phenomenal episode also. Anyway, Visions is good. So my point is, like, good Star Wars is out there. Star Wars is not dead. And arguably Star Wars has been better since Disney. I mean, that's my take on it, because we're actually getting content. The other thing that I don't understand, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, and then we can debate the Disney point, because it seemed like you had a point about that. Okay?
Yeah.
I do not understand the point where people are like, well, they have to push the Baby Yoda so hard for merchandising and stuff. It's like, what merchandising are you talking about? Kids don't buy toys anymore. Like, the toys are iPads, iPhones, everyone's on tablets and shit. Like,
well, I think from what I hear and what I see, like literally working in a mall, I mean, like, there's a shitload of Mandalorian merch out there, dude.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there's
maybe I'm
like,
disconnected on that.
Box Lunch. There, you got the Hot Topics. You got all of these stores that have all of these, and like, I see it constantly. Like, you sell like things that exist, but then you slap on Baby Yoda on there. You know what I mean? Like, my boss absolutely loves Baby Yoda stuff.
Well,
and,
if
like,
you work in the mall and you're
so,
seeing Baby Yoda getting monetized, I believe
like, constantly. It's crazy. Like, that is
so
the most bankable merchandising thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I believe that then. So let's go back to the point about, because I thought I had a hot take on that one, but I guess I believe. So let's go to. I actually think Star Wars has been better since Disney. And I know that's kind of like
torching. Is it? Well, hold on.
I know. Okay, because here's the reason why. After Disney acquired, and we're not going to talk about sequels again because everyone agrees, the sequels were dog shit.
Yep.
Okay, so everyone hates Star Wars because of the sequels.
Yep.
But the TV shows are good.
Okay, I would say half of them. Half of them are good, and then you get here. Book of Boba Fett was just mid. And could have been way better, and it just looked cheap in my opinion. Mandalorian's been good. I like Mandalorian a ton. Moments of Kenobi have been dog shit. Moments of Kenobi have been great. And then, because like the parts with Darth Vader and Kenobi, but then you get Reva in there, and I'm not going to go in that whole thing. But like, I just didn't like the acting and the story that they were telling there, and you have to like break in.
That's all fair.
Yeah. And breaking like the breaking out of Leia there, and it just wasn't good. But then you have the moment between Vader and Obi-Wan, fantastic. So it's like you do get that, and then without Disney wouldn't have happened. But I wish they didn't phone it in. It's almost like they use the IP of like, everyone's gonna watch Kenobi, so we don't need to spend that much money.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And then we get Andor, which is something that's absolutely incredible. And we get Rogue One, absolutely incredible.
Here's my reasoning: is I am willing to wade through the dog shit to get key moments of Star Wars that would have never happened. It's like, okay, to give you an idea, the Obi-Wan and Anakin training moment, where Obi-Wan's training Anakin as a flashback, is some of the best Star Wars of all time. I know they had a different director for that episode, etc., but that is like I will watch the faux Kenobi show to get that moment. Like, it's worth it to me. Whereas what people seem to fail to forget is we have the OG trilogy, which has never, after the OG trilogy, no one's ever made anything on the same level, including George Lucas. So, like, if you look back at the prequels were not well received. And then people look back with rose-colored glasses, myself included.
1,000%.
I love Episode 1, but when it came out, people made fun of it. Everyone seems to want to forget that.
Well, like, what happened was the people call it Phantom Menacing because the initial reaction of people when they left the theaters was they loved it. And so that's why, but everyone looks at it now, like, now they look at it with rose-colored glasses, but then at the time they're like, oh, this is dog shit, and then, but it was funny because if you watch initial reactions, everyone loved it. It was almost like they wanted to love it, and they had a whole term for it, which I think is pretty crazy, that it goes through waves of like good and bad. There's good moments in there, and then I loved how much time and care they put into the fight scenes, because we've had pretty bad fight scenes when it comes to...
I think people love the level up of Star Wars, where it's like, hey, here's the new tech, here's some of the lightsaber battles, like you're saying, that we've never seen before. Darth Maul was an amazing, maybe the best villain ever created in the Star Wars universe. It's up there, in my opinion. Okay, obviously Palpatine, but like, it's one of the better ones, okay? Yeah. So I thought there was a lot of really good, we got the Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon Jinn was phenomenal. I think Qui-Gon Jinn is like one of the best, if not... Probably that's too far, but like one of the best Jedi ever portrayed in Star Wars. I thought everything about Qui-Gon was perfect.
He's like what I would look... He's like the perfect embodiment of what a Jedi should be, which I think is great, and they had a great actor for him.
Doesn't trust the Jedi, tries to follow what he thinks the actual Jedi path is. I mean, you love Qui-Gon looking back at him, right? And so my take on it is like, look, okay, so Lucas did with the prequels a job that people consider similar to the sequels, not well received. Okay, yeah. So the sequels were way worse because not well received at the time. Like you're saying, Phantom Menace, people liked when it came out. The sequels, people hated when it came out and afterwards. Okay, whereas the Phantom Menace and the other ones, so be it. But then there was nothing. There's no content. There's no movies. There's no TV shows. There's a bunch of games. There's nothing. Okay, so it's, would we rather have this IP be in the hands of someone who's doing nothing with it, or would you rather get 2 or 3 bad TV shows and 2 or 3 Andors? I would rather have garbage out there and get the Andors than literally nothing to portray the purity of the game.
Totally fair point. I think I completely agree with that. Like, based on those 2 scenarios, I'll take this one every time, because it's like when an artist releases a good album and then a bad album, and then they like retroactively trash on them, where it's like, no, you got the good one. The good one's still there. You don't just listen to that one. You don't have to. So it's kind of the same thing here. I've always felt like Star Wars is a better framework of a story than the actual stories they're telling. Like, I love the world of Star Wars way more than I love Star Wars. And that's one of the things that I think people look at the prequels with rose-colored glasses, is because that world building was amazing. You got the Clone Wars, you have all these different worlds like Naboo and others that have been brought up. All the different like Clone Wars equipment and weaponry was all really well done. Whereas in the sequels, it's all trash. They were not creative at all. He built a really cool world.
Agreed. But then the other part of it is the prequels were 2 things about the prequels. It was still technically masterful, where it's an improvement visually. Okay, so it's like, you know how Avatar gets this huge bump where it doesn't have to have a good story and all that because of the graphics, right? Where it's the same thing with the prequels. Like, the action was better, the graphics were better, the lightsaber combat, all that was like, wow, they get bonus points for that. The sequel, it's like, we already know all this. Like, we already have seen good lightsaber battles. We've already seen CGI. You don't get those bonus points anymore. Now you have to tell a story, which is the part they failed on.
I completely agree. That is one thing that Star Wars, like, they lost that, whereas Star Wars was a technological marvel at the time. It was the Avatar of its time. And they lost that with, in the prequels. I think we don't look at it that way, even though at the time it was, because of how poorly that green screen and that technology ages. Whereas in the sequels, they didn't really blow anyone's minds. They didn't even go for that. They didn't go for something ambitious with the sequels. Whereas I think we would have a little bit more, like you're saying when it comes to Avatar. I think that's something that I forgot. Like, as you're talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah. And I mean, like, this was that they're basically like Avatar, and they would really focus on the technological side. They didn't even do that at all.
Industrial light and magic, straight from George. And the other really like interesting thing about it too is, so in the prequels, that was when me and you, like our era, 30-year-old middle-aged guys, younger of the middle age, we were starting to develop our love for Star Wars. Because, I don't know about you, but like, I did see the OG Star Wars before the prequels and all that, because my family owned them, like on VHS, but it didn't make me fall in love with Star Wars. What made me fall in love with Star Wars was the prequels. So because it was of my era, I enjoyed it, right? But now, as an adult, I need a story. And so that's why I like Andor so much, because they're like, hey, we know we can't blow you away with CGI anymore. That ship has sailed. Let's actually write, direct, and act out well. Let's actually
like a real story that actually doesn't shit on the Empire, but makes them actually formidable, to where it's like, okay, how has the entire galaxy been under this rule this whole time? They did so many things so well with Andor that I'm a massive fan of that, and I want more of that, because it's finally taking the potential of Star Wars and realizing it. Whereas, like, before, it'd be like, okay, this is fun, but then it's the other stories, it's the games, all these things around Star Wars that I enjoyed most. Because, like, when I was a kid, I watched them, we had them on VHS, I watched them then, I was very excited about all of the Star Wars, but it wasn't culturally relevant enough. Like, when I would go to school, like, when the last Star Wars prequel came out, I was like 16. I was like 15 or 16. And so it's like, no one wanted to talk about it, because it was like, it wasn't that good. And that's why I kind of dropped off of Star Wars until playing other games. Like, I would, as a kid, like play Rogue Squadron and stuff like that. But there wasn't really that many Star Wars games besides KOTOR, but I didn't play KOTOR. Like, I missed that. Like, I totally missed out on that.
Well, I think your point about it makes a better infrastructure and world and almost does a TV show, etc., is why it still does so good, because these other shows people are going to watch just to discover more about the world, even if they don't like the show. Where it's like, I'll watch anything Star Wars. Like, I didn't like Visions, at the beginning when I watched it, until I watched like the third or fourth one, and I started getting into it, and then go back and I'm like, oh, I actually do really like this. And same thing with Rebels. I watched Rebels for a little bit, didn't like it for the first bit, rewatched it again, started to get more in it. Because the reason is I'm no longer looking for like just a random movie or random story that's entertaining. I'm trying to learn more about the world and what I can scrape the details out of it for my own, figuring out the lore and stuff. Yeah. Super interesting stuff. Like in The Mandalorian, when you see the well, it's a callback to, Ezra and the rebels and all that, and setting up for Ahsoka Tano, I'm sure, when that show comes out. So you can actually like start to learn a bit about the world and feel like, I actually understand what's going on. So for me, that's my hot take. That's my real hot take on Star Wars, which is that Disney actually is doing Star Wars a favor. Yeah, by actually creating something.
I wonder, we'll never know what could have happened. Because before, nothing was happening and then Disney bought it. But would we have gotten no Star Wars? Would we have gotten better Star Wars? We have no idea. But this is the only reality that we have, so we have to kind of go with that. But it's still better than what we had before, which is nothing from prequels to 2015 when that came out.
If Darth Jar Jar was actually what had happened, and George Lucas, like that was the whole route, and then actually, I know it's a meme, but it's like it would be a better story.
I am so mad if he pussed out on
Darth
Jar Jar.
Like if that was the whole thing and actually went through, then I would have been sad that Disney had to, because then it's like Lucas is really coming up with some story and plotline, but it's it is what it is. But anyway, that's the Star Wars conversation. I don't.
What's the next topic? We
we'll move on from Star Wars here. So, where you want to go with this? We got two ways we can go with this. We can talk about gaming, or we can talk about you have a new TV, an OLED TV.
Let's quickly talk about the TV.
Okay.
So, I got the LG C2 55-inch. Got open box at Best Buy. So, got it for the same price as the 48-inch. I got the 55-inch.
Have you watched any of, speaking of Star Wars, have you seen the new Star Wars on? Have you watched anything graphically intensive? You got the Blu-rays I sent you. Did you watch those yet?
Yeah, I haven't watched those yet. I've been playing the remake of GoldenEye.
Oh. Okay.
On that.
I like that.
The big thing is, when it comes to, I was worried that there would be screen lag on a big screen like that. I've never had a big screen that didn't have some kind of lag to it. True. And it also has been a long time since I've ever cared about getting a bigger TV. The big thing why I like the C2 is the only one that has VRR and has all those gaming things there. And I want to see the benefit. I do want to play God of War on it. I want to play Ratchet and Clank. Things that, because I have a PS5.
Ratchet and Clank, I'm gonna be honest.
I've never played one of those, but I do love platformers. So it's I grew up playing Super Mario and stuff like that. Banjo-Kazooie. But those games. Psychonauts is another game I want to try. I've never played it. One? Psychonauts. That's another.
Psychonauts. Isn't that the one where it's you can basically type in whatever you want or draw in whatever you want? And
I'm not sure.
Maybe I just Scribblenauts.
I saw it's good and it's a platformer. That's all I know about it. And it came out way back in the day. I'm talking 2005, 2006. On Xbox, but then they had Psychonauts 2 just come out this way long time sequel, and so I want to play both of those and give those a try.
I want to know about the TV though is the OLED versus the LED. You've seen my TV, okay? So is it noticeable the difference quality, a good high-end TV versus a good high-end OLED?
I would say so. The things that I've really been liking is the extra features when it comes to how nice the actual, the smart TV aspect is. The remote. Okay. The remote works with my Xbox. Which is crazy.
Mine does too, actually.
There's so many features. It reminds me of when I went from a 1993 Camry to a 2016 Camry, and there's so many features.
You're what is this button do?
Holy shit, and then they fucking
ludicrous
over Transformers.
Lever,
And so a backup camera, holy shit. And then there's other features in nicer cars that now there's so many features when I was looking for a car that I didn't know I even wanted. And so I don't know if that's a feature that's anyone that's bought a TV since 2013 knows that's a normal thing.
Speaking of that, to that point, did you know that backup cameras on cars are legally mandated? You have to have all new cars will have a backup camera. That's a fucking law. Now, I learned that when I was selling cars. It's why do our $12,000 brand new cars have a backup camera? It's because we have to.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really good to know because it is such a good feature. It turns me from a terrible parallel parker to a really good parallel parker. I just fucking nailed that shit. It's so easy with that on there. So it's
one of the new features in cars. Random tangent, real quick, and then we'll go back to TV. It's one of the things I don't like about new features in cars. Speaking of new features, is have you heard of a CVT transmission? So basically, there's the standard. You have gear. Then there's a CVT transmission, which is basically you have these two pulleys. And they move the position of it to change the tension of a band. It's basically a rubber band. is how it works. And so it changes how the ratio of the gear by just having the band change. And they're extremely unreliable. They were terrible in the Nissans that I sold, and they always have problems. And a lot more cars are going to them. So that's one feature I don't like, but it's kind of a universal transmission.
Why are they doing that? Do they want it to break down after a certain point? Do they want the service fees?
I honestly think it's cheaper to produce.
Oh, okay.
And they're horrible for, they're not good for, you can't pull anything with them. So if you're trying to like pull boats or whatever, you can't do that with them. They're really bad in reliability. I think they're better for like fuel economy, from what I understand. But it's ease of use type thing. It's like it's like press and go. Like you don't have to worry about, there's no gears, so you just hit and go, and you don't even have to worry about the ottoman.
Do you think it would be good for places that have like they're not like these inclement weather areas?
Oh, it'd be way better for those.
Yeah.
For sure,
okay. Because we just had this year like the worst snow ever in like 23 years or some shit like that. So I've never been stuck in the 7 years since I've had this car. Never been stuck in Alaska. It's a front wheel drive car, but this year I got stuck. I couldn't even leave the driveway. There was so much snow. Yep. But having like all-wheel drive, like coworker has a Subaru Forester or whatever, and easily plowed through STI, and so like stuff like that. Like that is my new feature that I'm like, I need to get this on the next car that I get. Something like that.
The all-wheel is nice. The thing with the Subaru all-wheel is they're like super nice. Like I remember when I had to learn about these all-wheel systems. Like basically it boils down, you can't compete with the Subaru all-wheel drive system because of how good the electronics can read the variability of slipping. So it's like if one tire starts slipping, they have a 3-to-1 all-wheel drive system where it's like this one's slipping, so these ones will automatically make up for it, etc. Like cool. It's all they all figure out that.
That's what I learned because he was showing me. This started to cut you off, but it was like it was like showing there's a video of all these different SUVs trying to go up a big hill, and then like they're all-wheel drive, but it's like the all-wheel drive systems are not built equally. Like some of them
they're not built equally, not remotely. Yeah,
and so it's like you can't just slap that on and do that. And so it's like some of them make it up the hill, but like only like 1 or 2 of them would actually do that, and then all the other ones couldn't even make it up.
Correct, and that's what's so interesting about the WRXs is people use them as like, oh, it's a street racing car, but like it's a Baja car. Like they're meant for sand. They're meant for mud. Like that's what they're designed for. You know? They're off. But anyway, we got off on a tangent about cars.
Speaking of that tangent, though, I think the coolest thing is watching the cockpits of those like races where it's like dual.
It is the biggest like sphincter.
I'm like fucking gripping. I know. I'm like not even there. I'm just watching it. And
I can't handle it, bro. And you know what's worse than the drivers? I'm more scared for the spectators. These people, like, okay, this is the road. They will be here, and then the car's here, and they're just, and it's going by them like 300 miles an hour around a corner, and I'm like, bro, like you're taking a photograph. They like talk about it as like insert like famous racer. It's like, dude, I got the mud of his car. All like, I mean, I've seen people. Like a thing, I've seen people like take photos and like their camera gets knocked out of their hands.
Oh
like,
shit! It's
we're talking like inches, and it's these people have so much faith in these pilots. Where it's like, and half the time they're not even on the ground. They're like hydroplaning. It's like, I don't get it. I honestly don't. It's like you have to be a god among men to be able to drive at that speed around those corners.
And then have you seen the ones where they have the partner and they're like left,
right? They're reading the turns ahead, so the guy's turning before the turn, so that it's actually mind-blowing.
Crazy. But I just want, because it's like, because I love their system. They have this like big shifter, and it's just like,
dude, it's one of the things where I look at it, it's like I can understand how humans can get to a certain level in loss goes. That's the one I don't get that. And it's one of the things where I watch it, I physically like feel ill, and then it's like the sweaty palms thing. Have you ever watched like guys climb, like a mile down?
Well, like I feel like those people, like normal life is just boring as shit, and then the only thing that ever excites them is like a fucking overdose of adrenaline. Like
it's a drug addiction. That's what it is.
Basically.
But it's the human created drug addiction or whatever. It's they want the adrenaline dump. I mean, I have family members that love adrenaline, and I don't do some of the stuff they do and not only that, but it's like I get sick from heights. Like you put me on a tower and I look down, I'm gonna get dizzy.
I'm all like, I get dizzy. Yep. I got dizzy when I was in New York, looking up at it. The
megalophobia of it,
And I was like,
that is something I discovered recently about myself. I discovered this one when I went to San Diego for TwitchCon, because seeing skyscrapers in person is like a whole different thing.
That's what we have like maybe 20-foot buildings. or 20 floors.
We have like one big building. We have the one big one.
And nowhere near.
Nothing like it. And this, not only the scale of it, but the quantity of them. Where it's like you go it's just like, bro, like what is humanity doing?
It just keeps going up.
It's insane. And then I realized I played this game called Outer Wilds where you could like go into space and then you are basically flying, and the scale of it is accurate. So it's like as you get closer, stuff gets huge and stuff.
These monster things, and you're like,
something about there's this video you should pull up sometime where it's a planet like coming to Earth, like it's gonna collapse to Earth, and watching it go from like small to bigger and bigger and bigger, kind of like the moonfall.
No, I'm not gonna watch that.
Actually, scares me for some reason.
I refuse to watch that because I get scared over those things where it's like, okay, here's Earth, and then now here's Jupiter.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly it. That shit freaks me out. Dude.
But like it keeps showing the bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's like, and here's our sun, and now here's this sun that makes the sun look tiny, and now here's this sun that makes that sun look tiny.
And they have to show something that makes that one look tiny just to show you the other one, because it's physically impossible for your brain to even get the concept. It's when you start seeing how big things actually are, like it's like, holy moly. Like seeing it in person, like could you imagine in person watching like the sun get closer, and obviously you would fry before it, but like if you could see it,
if you can watch it, it would be fucking. It would be so blinding. But like besides all that, if you just see a big object in the sky, come at you, it'd be fucking terrifying.
Be terrifying. Be absolutely scary. There's this really cool short video of like it's like an alien that shows up and creates a black hole out of nowhere, which starts sucking everything into the sky. I was going on Twitter for a while, etc. And that one got me too. There's something that it gets me in the gut when I see these videos. Like I definitely have some kind of like megalophobia or whatever it's called. When you see something big, it bothers me.
I completely agree. I think I'm there. I didn't know the term for it. I know there's a term for it, but it's like actively freaks me out.
So speaking of big though, okay. We are going to talk about the biggest gaming release in this month. You like that segue?
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely.
So D4 beta is launching the 17th for the early access for the pre-orders, and then the open beta is what, the 23.
So it's 17th at I believe 11 a.m. our time to the 20th.
So noon.
No, 8 a.m. our time to
9 a.m. PST.
So and then to the 11th of March 20th. And the 17th to the 20th.
Because it's only during the weekends. It's 3 days, closes down.
It closes down at like before noon on Monday. They extended it a little bit. And then the first one's kind of a bummer because you only get 3 classes. Like you can't play all the 5.
I think it's Barbarian, Rogue, and Sorcerer.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, those 5. Big thing, you got to do the beta because you get the cutest beta thing if you get to level 20. So you can only go to level 25.
The wolf.
The little wolf. You got to get the little wolf. Because it's adorable. You get a little wolf on your back.
Yep.
And then so...
Actually looks good. It's one of the cooler cosmetics. One thing I'm actually excited for in D4 this time is I don't know how much this matters to ARPG players, to be honest, but I actually think like the color palette, the way the game visually looks, I like that it's darker, like more gray, more despair looking, I guess. I mean, it's Diablo after all. Like, they're not trying to make it this colorful thing. Because I do like D3, but one of the things that's off throwing D3 is everyone's running around with like a unicorn. You know what I mean? And D4 kind of looks a little bit more like keep you in the thematic stuff.
Yeah, it's they got the color palette right, where it's like all these kind of darker tones that really fit the vibe better than,
There's a lot of I don't know if you've been watching any of the YouTube videos, but there's a lot of YouTube videos like shitting on D4 right now, which is interesting.
Really?
The game's not even out yet, but there's a lot of people that...
Was it the monetization system?
Well, the most recent one I saw was by Quinn, kind of making fun of another guy who was talking about the itemization on it. I don't think it's the monetization. I still don't get where the complaints about the monetization is coming from, because from what I get, there's no pay to win in it. So I haven't understand.
I bet Battle Pass and stuff like that, maybe.
Well, so there is a Battle Pass, and it is cosmetic. Okay. And there is experience boosts in the Battle Pass. However, the experience boosts are not part of the paid version. It's part of the free version. And if you pay, you cannot acquire those faster. So it's locked out from the monitor. That's my understanding of it. I could be wrong. Someone can correct me please do correct me in the comments so I'll know if there's some pay to win in it. But it's if the game launches and there's pay to win, they're going to take huge flack because they've been going out of their way to be like over and over and over again in the public's eye say there's no pay to win, there's no pay to win, there's no pay to win. And yeah, I'm seeing videos being made, comments being made, Reddit comments, everyone say, it's going to be another pay to win garbage Diablo game. It's like, why? Someone explain to me why it's going to be pay to win? Because Immortal was?
Yeah, I think it could be because The more YouTube I do, the more critical I am of like these titles and thumbnails, just trying to get clicks.
As a YouTuber yourself, you know.
Well, because it's like you're so a negative video always does better. Basically for the most part. Yeah, and so it really makes me think like, are they being disingenuous? Are they trying to like fudge or like intentionally misread some kind of headline to get their own headline? And it's very difficult to like, I don't know, I just get so cynical with it. Like I want to assume good intent, but when you see that the profit is in the negativity, it's hard to take it as,
the part that bums me out is like everyone telling you you're not allowed to be excited by something. Yeah. It's like, hey, it's not going to be that good. Like, stop being hyped for it. It's like, why? Can I not enjoy a game launch? I don't get it. Like, why? How did we in gaming get to the point where everyone's mad at you?
Maybe it's they legitimately got super excited for a game, and then they don't want to feel like you to feel that way. Maybe it's coming from a good place where it's like they got crushed by like they had this high expectations. Maybe they were a big fan of what's that EA game that came out that was just complete dog? I guess
a lot of
like
those.
it starts with an A, like not Apex.
Anthem.
Anthem. They were like, maybe they were big Anthem fans, and they're like, Anthem is going to be the best game ever, and then they just got soul crushed by Anthem being trash.
I think it's two things. One of which I think the gaming industry in general has overpromised and underdelivered. I think early access, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, all of these things have hurt the gaming industry by claiming the money before they've earned it. I think that has hurt people's trust in the gaming. Number two, Immortal destroyed Blizzard's Diablo legacy, basically. Look, I make a living off Immortal. I play Immortal all day, but I'm telling you, like, the pay to win in that game hurt their PR in a way that almost nothing else could have. I mean, they went through like the whole the women thing that they had going on with the drama about they went through all that drama.
They're going
They went through all of that and survived. But the one that's really going to kill them is like gamers, the people who are showing up for your product care about one thing, which is the product that they're there for. So if you ruin the product that they're there for, they'll forgive you for a lot of other bullshit. But if you ruin the product they're there for, then they almost never forgive you for that. That's my take on it. So I think Immortal is hurting the D4 launch a lot because almost all the times I see the negative comments about D4, people are either talking about Immortal, talking about pay to win. So it's like, oh, we can't trust, D4 after Immortal, et cetera. So I'm really curious to see how that launch goes.
Well, I had a weird situation. I think we both did when it came to Immortal because I planned to make content on Immortal well before any press or the game came out. It was like a whole plan. I researched it, got invested into it, took time off to make content about Immortal. So when I was grinding it, I had blinders on, didn't pull up a single YouTube video about it. All I cared about was learning the game so I could make content on it. So it was very weird for me to play a game, understand the game, and think it was actually a pretty good game, then coming into the most roasted game of all time. And I think not having that was actually really enjoyable. Like turning yourself off from YouTube and other people's opinions and making my own damn opinion about something was really refreshing. And then a lot of it too, you find out that there's so much nuance that gets lost. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but their experiences, not like from their experience, from their little experience playing the game, they can make those opinions and stand by those because they're right for someone that's only played a couple hours or whatever. But it seems like they're trying to reverse engineer their point to be negative, to then make a negative statement versus actually playing the game for an extended period of time and then
people
actually
start with their opinion and then work backwards.
Yeah, they're like, my opinion needs to be negative. How do I play the game and show the parts that makes the opinion negative?
I also think like there is some like direct planning out that people do, like you're referencing, but I also think there's a portion of it where like people go out and they watch other YouTube videos of the bigger guys, they get an opinion from somebody and then they just agree with it. Like they'll watch whoever their favorite guy is, they trust the guy. He has an opinion. They're like, okay, that's what it is. And then when they go and play it themselves, the only thing they see in that is that opinion because it's influencing the way they're looking at it, And
I get influenced by that.
I do too. So it's not really like, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know what the solution to that really is.
I think what it is people work in their own best interest, and I think a lot of people don't have much time to play games, and they want to be able to go to a source and just they tell them, is this game worth my time? Because the people don't have much time. They have the kids, they have jobs, they have all these things. Okay, this game is the most hated. F this game, not going to play it. And then I'm going to go on to the next one. And
there's an example of this. The reason, like, I'm thinking an example of this on the top of my head was there was a guy who made a video on Diablo Immortal that I think it was like Dreamcast guy or something. He made this one right in the beginning and he has a good amount of subscribers. Seems like decent content. He just kind of reviews games. But like I watched his video and it was so full of stuff that's just not right. Like he literally said you can't even hit the max level without paying. Like you can't even hit level 60. It's like, just like, dude, you're so wrong. Like I don't know what to...
Correct,
just to make a video like capitalizing on being negative or whatever. And it's like, it's kind of a bummer because if I watch any of his other videos, I would have no idea if he's correct or not. I would just, if I was a fan of his, I would just have to trust his opinion. But you watch, the only reason I even know that one's wrong is because I played the game. And so it's the only answer to stuff like that is you just have to find somebody you implicitly trust in terms of, I guess it's the whole journalism thing versus, propaganda and media type of stuff. But you just have to find somebody you actually trust. And then hopefully you can continue to trust them.
Being a gaming journalist is so difficult because the games, you're on the pressure of getting the game out, like the thing out quick, doesn't pay that well anyway. And then getting the actual content and doing due diligence takes a very long time. So it's like they have so many ways against it. It's very difficult. So I get the pressure to crank something out fast, but you have this big experience like Diablo Immortal. You can't. People are having these massive reviews of the game. 3 days in, 4 days in? Like that's impossible.
You can't do it. Or people will review the game based upon watching somebody else's video. So it's I'll react to this guy's opinion and form my opinion off of that. And then you're playing like telephone game 3-4 down, and then the vast majority will believe something that's literally not even true. And then that is stuck there forever. So that can get kind of frustrating in gaming. I noticed that going more and more and more that way with gaming, which I don't know if that's just going to continue the spiral that way, where it's just everything's really polarizing, because it really seems like games are getting really polarized. Like now gamers are like fighting amongst themselves and stuff about it. So,
do you have an example of that?
I think Immortal, the one we're talking about, is a great example of that. I mean, from like the moral aspect, people would tell you even playing the games.
I feel like for us, we were different because we covered the game. I intended to cover the game before all the negative stuff came out, but I was like, I planned for this. I did all this research. I'm going to cover the game regardless. But I would say that game is probably not polarizing because the vast majority of people dunked on the game.
Yeah, that's accurate.
It's
really accurate.
Yeah, but I would say the nuance of that is a lot of the stuff that they dunked on the game for was just blatantly wrong. Like I think if people yes, a lot of the stuff that really matters, totally true. But the stuff, it's just annoying when you can. Just because everyone agrees on that opinion doesn't mean that it excuses blatantly wrong information. And there was so much wrong information during that time that I think people need to be a little bit more careful what they say. And people are just not held accountable for blatantly wrong information.
Yeah, and I think really what it is it's like there's a point everyone agrees with, which is that like pay to win in gaming is a problem. And so everyone's fighting against that point. And it's like, that's a problem. And maybe this is a good example of it. So you get the martyr of, hey, Diablo is never been a pay to win game. Now they're adding pay to win, and it would be like if FIFA was never pay to win, and then they just make pay to win now. It's like people would blow up over it, but it's always been pay to win.
Yeah, Pokemon became pay to win. You take this beloved IP and then you just shit on it and make it pay to win. It's of course that is the first game ever. Like that was one of the points I was making during that time was this is the first known existing IP that is converted to pay to win. Like there's never really been. Well, I guess you can argue FIFA and like those other games were existing IPs like Madden,
Star Wars even with like Battlefront. There's been a lot of
and I feel like those games. Well, I guess
because Battlefront's still the most downvoted post in Reddit history is the Star Wars Battlefront one.
Yeah, and then so that's probably the first example of that. I don't know what came first, like because I don't know about
FIFA is technically the first person I believe to add microtransactions.
Like FIFA and.
The horse is where it started.
That's the first microtransaction thing. Period.
Right,
but I'm talking taking a IP, existing known IP, and then converting it into a pay to win style game.
More of those one of the more obvious ones because Diablo is a big brand. So I think that was a large part of the heat too, where it's an obvious one to be like, hey, this is a problem, and fight against the point to pay to win, which I think we all agree on at that point.
Okay, let's go to the next topic.
Next topic. All right, we slammed that dead horse. And what do we got here? So we talked about D4 and more though. So speaking of Diablo real quick, Diablo 3 Season 28 is arguably, I don't think it's technically, but it's arguably the last season of Diablo 3.
Yeah.
Because we have in June 6/6/23 is going to be the launch of Diablo 4. which is a direct successor. And so in the same way that, people still play D2, but now that it's remastered, D3 kind of killed it all. It's going to be the same thing. Like D4 is going to drive the player base from people that are grinding D3 still into D4.
You know what would be interesting? I wonder if when D4 comes out, does Diablo 2 Remastered have a bigger player base than D3? Like after Diablo 4 comes out?
Maybe. Because I feel like D2 is a different game than D3. Very much so. And I think D2 is it's like the old school RuneScape of Diablo, if that makes sense. It's the one where people are going to want to go back and play for what it originally was. And then D4 is going to be the people that enjoy the IP, but they're not hardcore fans of the original style and mechanics of the game. So you want to go with it. From what I understand, D4 is supposed to be closer to D2 than D3. In terms of like actual mechanics of the way the combat and the damage reduction and all that works. In fact, from what I remember, Path of Exile used a lot of D2's mechanics, I think, also. But I'm not a Path of Exile expert, so I've played the game, but I'm not hard enough, and it's just something.
Some of the trees look very similar, like on how they spread it out. It's like it's its own thing, but it looks like they took some of the concepts and streamlined them a bit.
I think Path of Exile is similar to OG D2 in the way that they scaled monsters, from what I gather, but I could be wrong about that. Again, if you have the correct information on that, please leave it in the comments. That's something I would actually love to know. What are you pulling up here?
Well, I'm trying to look. I wanted to see the player counts on Steam.
It's going to be real. Well, you're not going to find it on Steam now, are you? Because it's
yeah, you're right.
So it's going to be real hard to find player counts for that.
Yeah, active. Damn, that's a bummer.
That's going to be too.
Okay. Well, I really wanted to see because right now I bet if I had to guess, Diablo 3 has more players than Diablo 2 Resurrected. I bet it like peaked really high when Resurrected came out. But
it's season based, so that's the other thing. It's like a D2 Resurrected does have seasons also. So I think what happens is I've also noticed their timelines are very smart, where they do one season of one goes, and when that one's dying down, they do the season of the other game, etc. To give you an idea, the major update for Diablo Immortal was coming on March 30th, right after the ending of the D4 beta, right? A couple days after. So I think they purposely know that people who play Diablo, in fact, I've talked to some of the other content creators in Immortal, or like long time 20, 30 year, or however long it's been out, now. I guess 30 years too long, but OG Diablo, all the way to now, that's all they play. It's literally just Diablo. There's a lot of really hardcore Diablo fans that will play all the Diablos. They just do whatever the major update of it actually is.
Okay, interesting. So it makes perfect sense, that they would do that. But when it comes to here, this is my game. I play this game, and that's it. It's just that simple.
Just what they like. I mean, for me, I like MMOs. I've played the vast majority of other games, and work has made me experiment with more games than I normally do. But for me, if you ask what I like MMOs. That's just my genre. And some people are ARPG for whatever reason seems to really be a genre that they're very tight knit. Like I'm only going to play ARPGs. That's what they enjoy for whatever reason. So.
Well, for a long time, it was shooters, and then I went from shooters to League of Legends for an incredibly long time. So it's like I kind of get it, where it's like you find your game, and that's the game you play. You just do that. And I bet there's a lot of people like that when it comes to battle royales nowadays. Ever since those came out, it's just I play Warzone or I play Fortnite, whatever. So
I think Diablo, it would have been even bigger. It was a big game, but I think it would have been even bigger if there was any competitive esports scene. Because there wasn't any esports scene when Diablo was like kind of the new fresh thing on the scene, right?
Yeah.
In 96, I think is what you found there when it came out, right?
Diablo 2 was 2000, and then 1996, December 31st.
Right. So like StarCraft and all that was coming out, and we saw esports and events and all that, but there's not like any live anything to really. There wasn't a huge lot of marketing. It's a good game. You either just play the game and enjoy it, but there's no additional promotion, if that makes sense. For the franchise
I think back then, because like around that time, like MLG started to happen in like the early 2000s, but like I don't know how many eyeballs it really brought in, because StarCraft was the big one. So it's like I think there's StarCraft tournaments, but that was a super niche thing for Americans because it was all Korean based. And then so there's really nothing pulling them there. But it is kind of interesting that the same company getting that attention for that didn't do something for Diablo. But like it's too
hard
game development takes like 5 years, so there's no way for them to retroactively add something like that. It just worked out that way for StarCraft, and they're like, okay, that's our StarCraft game, that's competitive.
Plus Diablo is weird, where it's like it's a grind based game, so your character strength is directly about how many hours you have, and you can't exactly go to a LAN party and fight each other.
I liked how Lost Ark did it. Yeah,
I did like the PvP in Lost Ark. I thought they did a good job in the PvP in Lost Ark.
It was very clean, and you could like really. I thought they did a good job of showcasing like this guy does this move, and then he does this move. Now he is vulnerable for this period. Oh, he still has his role, like and so I thought it was. You could actually be a viewer of it, in my opinion. Whereas, like, I feel like a lot of esports, like Fortnite, like basically all shooters, are almost unwatchable because of just how quick they are. You're just constantly going. There's no commercial breaks. Like, there's nothing. Like, you can't get any ad revenue. You can't understand what's going on. And if a guy dies, you have to cut to the next person and cut to the next person. Whereas, like, these other games, you can actually enjoy and watch them. So I thought that was a really good way of handling it. Where here you go, you get everything, build your stuff, and go fight people. Like, I think that is fantastic.
Lost Ark PvP was clean because everything was separated too, and there was basically no like power creep. And I also thought the way they did like the spectator mode and the 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 was like pretty well done too. Having a PvP mode in ARPGs, I think, is like extremely hard to do.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, it's very difficult. Well, I like how they just separate it. They're like, here you go. It's just we know that this is going to be impossible to balance. You can do more fun stuff probably in PvE. We do more competitive stuff over here, but we need to keep it in its own.
I never really saw any like esports teams, gaming houses, anything like that come out of Lost Ark. I don't know if that was something I got out of the scene. So I
wonder if that's even a thing really with the franchising, like because we had the transition from like gaming houses and stuff like that, but then the franchising stuff happened. Like technically that's when they're in gaming housings, but like. There's no money in esports. Esports is going to zero. Like all these places.
Do you think that's true?
I think what they're doing, they got all these venture capitalists that all this money into it, but where is the money? There's no way to monetize.
How has me and you ever contributed money-wise to esports, even though we've consumed a ton of it?
I've consumed esports from early 2000s. The only thing I've ever directly spent on esports is me buying a damn team pass to an open tournament in Halo. That's it. Because back in my day, we paid to go compete. We didn't get paid to compete. We paid to go to compete.
And it's true. I mean, that's the hilarious part about it. It's a whole industry that takes millions and millions of dollars, but then you have people out there that are individual, single people just live streaming that get more viewers. You know what I mean? And I mean, like Kai Cent, the largest.
He's the largest Twitch now.
What's his last name? Do you know?
Kai Cent. I think it's just Kai Cent.
Okay, maybe I was trying to figure out his last name, but. You'll pull it up.
Boomer alert.
Pull it up, Jamie. I haven't watched him that much. I've only seen the clips.
Senate?
Yeah, well, it's CENAT. Is that Senat?
I've always just Kaisen.
That's what I thought it was.
Or
but whatever. So you got guys like this that have the most Twitch subs of all time for a Twitch channel, etc. And he's an individual.
Okay, so I think there's two issues. Yes, you can have one person in a room do better than an esports thing. Yes. I also think another issue is that now that we're on YouTube and we learn about AdSense and on how ads are paid, I think esports viewers are the lowest amount of money I would ever spend on an ad ever. They're the most worthless ads to ever spend on. So what does that mean for the tournament? I guarantee no one buys their shit. You could put anything. You could put.
No one's gonna the pop-ups that are on the League of Legends.
No
like where it's like
shit
this
about
match.
that. You would have to pay me to put my
and
product on
the ad
there.
revenue is like what? Like they make like $20,000 a month or something off the ad revenue for Twitch. Like it pays one guy's salary. Like it's
it would be dog. So that is another thing too, because like. Your point, you have the perfect point. We've been watching esports and how we
made no money off it. Nothing.
They've been delivering us these amazing productions, all of this stuff.
And they still are, and we're just not watching it anymore because we don't care.
I think that really sums up the reason there. The only thing I've ever directly contributed to esports besides the Team Pass was the skins that I bought in League of Legends. They got about $1,000 off me.
True, but then that money contributes to the prize pool.
Yeah.
So it's not even really going to the company as profit. Then, oh my God, I had a point here. It was such a great point, and my brain just deleted it out of existence. Do you ever have that where you're like, I'm literally in the middle of saying it on the side, and it's just gone.
Big Esports deleted your idea. You're tearing them down.
It's coming for me, man. Now it like throws you off too because you're like, man, I had a fantastic point.
I'll come back to you. 3 days. 3 days later.
Podcast number 6. What happened?
You're just gonna think like we're gonna be talking about Mandalorian episode 5. You're gonna be like, oh my God, esports.
It's back.
It's back, baby.
It's back. Okay, so the other problem is like originally esports part of the reason people watch is because the production value is insane. So you see this high production value. But now, like, the average YouTuber is, like, getting to documentary level. Like, people's editing quality and all that. Quality has gotten, it's like the same thing with Star Wars. Throw it back to where it's like originally the CGI and all that was a huge part of why people were excited. Now it's expected. So it's like watching these esports, I'm not impressed with your overlays. I'm not impressed with your production and your B-roll, even though it's good and impressive. I'm not impressed because the average YouTuber has quality arguably as good, if not better. Like, and maybe not the average, that's an exaggeration, but like the average big YouTuber, okay, has impressive levels of quality.
Yeah. I also think, well, because esports went from like, it was terrible. Like I would literally like back in like 06, 07 in MLG, like they would just put the teams and you would just hear them call out, or sometimes you wouldn't even hear them call out, no commentary. You would just watch the matches. And then, so it would go from that to these crazy over the top productions. And then you have League of Legends and it's all franchise and you got like other sports investing into it, but they don't have any revenue from a stadium. They don't have any revenue from like that much merch, maybe a little bit of merch. But, and then also I think another big issue is the burnout of the esports athletes. Like you have Tom Brady playing a physical sport until his 40s, but then you don't have a single esports player making it to like 30. You know, like, they all
the mental
burn out
drain
too quick.
Is insane.
Yeah, and then also no one wants to cheer for a little kid. I mean, you have like, for example, these little kids winning esports tournaments. Like a
16-year-old winning a Fortnite tournament, like no one cares.
That goes to when it comes to X Games and skateboarding. Like I saw this little kid in braces doing the big air. I'm not going to support this guy. Like, like I don't give a shit.
Kyra kids on this podcast confirmed. Holy shit, that's hilarious.
I grew up like watching Tony Hawk, like these people I would look up to, but I was a kid, they were an adult. It's all backwards.
Okay, so
now.
let me clarify this. So it's if the kid was doing the world's first and pushing it, that's where you're excited by it. But it's not
No, I'm not, because it's a little kid doing it. It's weird. It's weird. It's a 14-year-old and he's the best. That is a problem.
From the average, it's like you don't want to be an adult. But the problem is with games, like there's a lot of kids playing them.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids playing them, and
they're not advertisable.
Imagine
friendly.
being 15, you're like, you're too old, you're washed. Yeah, you know, like that would be terrible.
I don't know. I don't mind if it's a kid too much, but I will say like what did turn me off about. I remember telling you this about years ago. We were playing Fortnite. Okay, and then I went to the fair, and I think this was a while ago. I went to the fair, and I saw like a 10-year-old in like a Fortnite hoodie, and I never logged into the game again.
Yeah, well, you just could, because like we're 30, and then they're.
And I looked down, and it's like he's doing the Fortnite dance, and I'm like, I can't play this game. I can't play it.
You know, you said 10, and he's already doing the dance.
Yeah.
The esports scouts are looking to recruit him. He's the perfect age. He's the perfect age. I think he has some potential. I feel like this is your
hottest take, but it's also like kind of accurate. I don't know. It's true. Like I don't know. I also think it's like a lot of the esports teams. I don't think they bring in kids, do they? I mean, you have to be 18 to be
League
signed.
of Legends did things so smart. Okay, here I'll break it down why I think they were genius, because they knew the problem. Koreans are going to dominate everything. Okay, no one gives a shit as an American fan about Koreans because they don't speak the language. They can't get behind supporting a Korean.
We want to be like US go. Yeah.
They want to be like, not even. I don't think they're nationalistic. I think what they are is they need a character or a person that they can get behind. And if you can't speak the language, you can't support them. Case in point, any UFC star, it's very hard to get behind anyone that doesn't speak English.
I disagree. I actually disagree. So I think it is nationalistic, and it's not about the person. I think it's about like
Conor McGregor. He's Irish, and Americans love him.
That's great, but I'm talking for esports. So there's a few defensible reasons as to why I have it. Okay, first of all, Faker is beloved by like fucking everybody.
Well, okay, it only took him being the absolute best, and he's the biggest outlier. Period. And he kind of.
But that would also, if that was true, and he was the biggest, best, and all that, it would also be more polarizing. If people weren't willing to support him, you would see more like Americans being mad about him. Like everyone loves him.
But I'm saying it's not nationalistic, and then people are willing to support Faker. You know, so it's like, but it's not from that perspective. He actually has the story that you can get behind, where it's like we've been watching him so long, it breaks apart the English portion. Sure. But because it's not nationalistic, like I was saying, so then you can get behind a Korean and it's fine. But it takes this massively long esports career to ever get to that point.
Okay. Sure. Fair enough counterpoint. So then how about like North America versus EU? This is a very common...
That is a big nationalistic thing that has happened when it comes to esports that I like. That there's some
friendly rivalry.
And it's like a friendly, NA, LOL kind of thing. Like, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But that was built out of the necessity, to my point originally, about why I think they're genius. Two things.
Okay.
They make the age requirement 17. Because so then that's why people like Reckless or whatever, he would have been dominating at 15, but he comes in at 17. People like there's a couple mid laners, I forget their names, but one went to C9, one went to like Fnatic.
C9 mid laner Cloud. Was it Cloud? It's not Cloud. He was a jungler though, right? Or he was a top laner or something. What was the C9?
He was like banned initially.
Was it High? It's not High.
Well, there was High initially, and then he got dropped or retired for the other guy as their mid laner. But I forget his name.
And Meteos was the jungler, and then
Sneaky was and then they had but when it came to,
I'm forgetting I don't know. It's been a minute since I remember my C9 League of Legends lore here.
Yeah, laners in a list.
I could be convinced of your point.
My point is, let me see if I can get his name. But my point is, first of all, age 17. You don't get any 14-year-olds dominating. You can actually get behind a 17-year-old, kinda. He's young, but like there's been people in the NBA, people in the NFL that are like really young. Not so much NFL.
I agree with, and I like the point that you have to be 17 plus, because I think it also makes legally wise with like Copa and all these other issues.
You're not working these kids. I think
like
that's
at a
another
slave
point.
Pace level. I mean, league you have to work 16 hours a day.
Yeah,
like, it's insane.
It would be terrible. So there's that aspect there, and then probably it was a legality thing, but I think it kind of accidentally worked out for them. But then also they region locked everything. So then there's NA, there's EU, there's all these places, because what would have happened is season 1, all the Koreans dominate, no one speaks the language, very hard to watch it. 90% of people drop off. There's no storylines.
But I think that, okay, so I agree. That's all great points. I do kind of still believe the nationalistic thing is true, though, because I think that in that scenario, I think it doubles down on the point where people are going to support where they're from. And I think this is, you look at almost any sport. I mean, you have a good example about Conor McGregor, but I think that's about individuals, not about teams. Whereas in team-based sports, I think become more nationalistic.
It gets more tribal, and
soccer, football. I think that's like some pretty good examples. I think if people will show up just to root for their country, no matter what. I think people would do it from a state level too, where it's like if you have a state football team, you're going to rival against the other state because it's state v. state. I think people psychologically are naturally going to be tribalistic and will support where they're from over it. I think the point, however, and I think this is where we kind of come into the middle, is that your point about the language barrier, et cetera, it makes it way harder to support these other places, which double down to what I think where people are just going to support locally where they're from because they see themselves within the people and they want to support like type of people.
But it's hard to want to support if they're not even like top 50. I agree. Because I think the nationality thing comes through because they set the framework of it to have those tribalistic things. Like they set it as NA, they had it as EU, but they could have just done an open tournament with the best teams, and then no one would be from NA, no one would be from EU.
And in that scenario is where I would argue the tribalistic nature would come out more if it was worldwide competition. I think
what would happen, we would. Right now, I think it's as high as it could. Like I disagree in that point because I think what would happen is it would probably be all Korean, maybe Korean and Chinese, and then maybe those places that are actually having those things. But what would happen is we wouldn't even be fighting between NA and EU because we wouldn't even be at the table. And then the money wouldn't even be there because none of.
So you're saying on the world level, when we won't even be at the world tournament, so you can't cheer for people who aren't.
There. We wouldn't even care. Whereas,
those are fair points.
I would say China and Korea would probably get very nationalistic because they're actually the ones competing at the top stage, and then we would really get behind maybe the lone EU team that has a miracle run. Like something like that. They break through qualifiers or something like that.
That's a good point. I think we're already forced kind of into that decision though, because very often you'll watch hey, the finals are going on for these different events where the whole world does come together and and I forget the.
And it's pure nationalistic. Like it's like we're all team. I'm team NA and EU. I mean, it's like all the way.
Exactly. So I do see I believe we've seen that come out in people. But I also think people are willing to root for somebody who's not the best. I think being the best will give you some help, but I think people will root for somebody from where they're from regardless, but not necessarily the majority. So an example is we have a football team here in Alaska that no one gives a shit about.
Yeah, well, we're not even. Yeah, well, we're not a main team. It's
not an NFL team.
Yeah, no one gives a shit about non-NFL teams.
Right, but even if let's say we had one, but we were terrible. In that scenario, the Alaskans would love it because you can already see it that in Seattle, like Alaskans by proxy take over the Seahawks. So it's like all of the Alaskans are like, go Seahawks.
Well, I'm a little annoyed by that because the only reason, the only time anyone like Alaska is the biggest bandwagon city I've ever seen when it came to. We don't have our own. Because no one gave a shit about the Seahawks until they started winning. And then when they were good in like 2013, I went from like I was working and then I would see 0 Seahawks. And then they had a couple good years. The only true Seahawks fan that I know of 100% was Ian, our Best Buy manager. That is a true Seahawks fan. Ian. Anyone else, all these fake bandwagoners, if you were a Seahawks fan pre-2013, 2012, sure. If you were able to endure the Hasselbeck era of like a guy injuring himself by running into the end zone, untouched, if you can endure that,
you're not wrong. Yeah. I do think there are some cosplayers for Seahawks. 100%, you're correct. But there are definitely some legitimate fans that have, but just by proxy. But anyway, we're not that far off this point in agreeing, Larry. Anyway,
we're right there.
We're semantics at this point. But I do kind of. The only thing I say is I like the open forum where it's smart how they divide it up. I get it, but it also removes the ability to actually see where people are on the competitive level and removes the ability for them to get onto that competitive level because it's like if you can't play against the best in the world, then you just can't play against the best in the world. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to happen, and you're not going to have those matchups. And I understand we have like the events, the one-offs where you can see that happen.
Yeah, when we get dumpstered,
we do get dumpstered. We do get dumpstered. But my point is, I want the opportunity to watch us get dumpstered.
Yes, I do like that. And the thing is, that's why I think they're so smart. Because imagine making the 100th best player actually monetizable and actually good. Like, I would say, like Doublelift, like probably one of our Bjergsen and Doublelift.
This is a great
They're probably like top 15, top 16. Yeah. But they're monetizable because they're the best in NA. They're like NALCS champions.
That is a fantastic point. That's actually very true. And they're already having problems monetizing, like you're saying. So no, I actually completely agree with that point. Yeah.
So that's why I think they're smart, because they preempted like all the issues was because they saw it with StarCraft, where it's like it's all Korean, no one cares, the viewership is 0.
I completely agree. So I think from like the monetized aspect and the business side of things, I completely agree with you saying. It's mostly the psychology of humans. The part where I differ a little bit.
Well, because I also see a lot of UFC and who becomes a star and who doesn't become a star when it comes to marketing yourself, and a lot of times it's like I don't think there's ever been a single major star that doesn't speak English in the UFC. They all have to speak English. For example, even a Dagestani had to learn English and start doing interviews, and then Khabib had to do that before he became a big star. He's a massive star here, even bigger star in the East, but that's the only way he was able to get over.
It's a barrier to entry. I mean, there's no denying it's a barrier to entry. Like if you don't speak the language of the people that are trying to support you, it will factually be harder to get support. I agree. Yeah, there's no debate there.
Yeah, so it's like, and that's one of the, and so then doing that I think was smart. But it's unfortunate because even with that, like I would say, I wonder if League is profitable. Like the esports scene of League is profitable because they're also an outlier in the sense too that I believe they're the only ones that are the developer and the people that actually run the tournaments, like really run the tournaments as well. Like because there was like what is it, Overwatch, they did their thing, they franchised everything out, and of course Blizzard was like incredibly greedy and like cranked up the prices of the franchisee spots by like double what they did for League. And it's like, who the fuck are you to like be doing that, where it's like you have this game that a fraction of the people watch, don't have anywhere near the worldwide audience, and you want to have franchisee spots that are even more money than League. So,
well, I think League was the kind of the perfect outlier too, where it's like there was a genre that was blowing up, and they came out with basically the best version and the best watchable version of that genre. You could argue Dota 2, but it's like Dota 2 is like the elitist version of League, is my opinion. Like if you just like the genre as a gamer and as a player, then Dota 2 is like almost the superior version, because when you play it, you have way more micro you can do. The purchasing is more complicated, etc. So it's like League. Some people consider like the baby version or whatever of Dota. I think that's a little far, but I do think that League is more accessible. So therefore, it blew up quicker, etc. And now, in order to get back to what League was at its peak, we need an entire different genre of game. Because, I mean, we already saw this happen. Like, I don't think it's even, like, an opinion. I think it's fact. Like, that we had FPS had a time, RTS had a time, then we had the MOBAs had a time. So it's like, somebody's going to come up with a new, fighting games.
I would say FPSs have come back as the top, because you got Warzone, you got Fortnite.
Yeah, they're kind of always floating up. They're sports games, but I don't really think the sports games get competed that much with. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that. Like FIFA, NCAA.
They get competed, but no one watches them. I mean, like comparatively, like they do have an audience. They do have an audience, and so like that. And they're very popular games, but I think the competitive side doesn't bring in nearly as many views as any of these other games.
Yeah, and all the times I'm watching videos on like FIFA and stuff, because I'm just curious from a YouTube side view, the stuff that always gets views is like pulling packs. Like it's like gacha. So it's like that's what people are there to see. It's like CS:GO, great pulling. It's like people will watch the competitive stuff, but the clips of like, what was his name? Anomalous CTV or whatever, the guy that wears the mask. Like, guys like that are the ones that blow up because it's the entertainment value of that industry that people want, not the competitive side of it.
It's crazy how gambling is just so innate into humans. It's like it's like they hacked. It's like biohacking humans on like this is the most
unpredictability that is fascinating with people.
So it's interesting, but. Do we have any more topics?
I think we kind of ran it down. How are we doing on time? Just over an hour?
Did we run it down mid on our topics?
I think we ran it down mid on our topics. Okay. That was a good one. That was episode 1 of the Two Brothers Podcast. If you're watching this, make sure to not only like the video, but subscribe, because we will be doing some live variants of this every single week. And you can come by the next live one. We will have comments where we'll be reading them, and we'll have a section where we can actually answer the comments. So if you have questions or anything you want answered on the next podcast, you can either leave them in a comment in this video or come by the next live stream, and you'll have the bell on to be notified of that. You got any last shout outs or anything?
I think that's it. I think we nailed it. All right,
Brothers Podcast.
Guys. See you guys next week.
See you next one.
Later.